Don't have that define the relationship talk, nothing like that, because there's no situationships. You only date to be in a relationship, so it's obvious that you organically enter into one.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Beyond Borders podcast, where I sit down weekly with guests from all around the world to chat culture, dating, and human experiences. So join in and let's break down those barriers together. Hey guys, so today for my very first podcast, I will be chatting with Elena, who's originally from Poland. Elena runs the rapidly growing Instagram page PolishWithElena, which I'm going to link below, and it's also linked in the podcast if you're watching this on video. Elena actually met in Lisbon, Portugal, and she is the person that helped me co-write the video about dating a Polish man. So she's someone who knows the Polish culture well, but she's also spent a lot of time abroad, which makes me actually very curious about her experiences in dating with other culture and the culture shocks that come with it. So welcome, Elena.
Cześć, hi, hello everybody. So nice to be here with you. My goodness, meeting again.
I know it's been such a long time since we actually saw each other face to face, a couple of years, right?
Yes, that's true. And it was so much fun. Yes, we did two videos together. We also did the one about Slavic countries, was it?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we did a couple of videos together when I was, back in Lisbon. And then I didn't really even realize that you started growing your Instagram page. And I keep checking in and it's just growing day by day. And you're now selling Polish classes. I'm like, wow, this girl, like, you're publishing daily. You're committed to it.
I am committed to it, just as you are, right? It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but it's so satisfying, so rewarding. It's so lovely to grow your network and to provide high value content to people who are interested in it.
Tell us something about yourself. So you're originally from Poland, right?
Yes, I am from Poland, born and raised. I was born in a small town in the beautiful, picturesque region of Mazury in the northeast of Poland. It's gorgeous, wonderful. It's a gem. So I really recommend visiting that place. And then I studied there. And then when I finished university, I left Poland. So I studied languages. I have a master's degree in languages, English, Polish, and Russian actually. And then I lived in a bunch of countries. I lived in 9 different countries, usually working as an English teacher. Then I started teaching Polish as well, and I started publishing books. I'm also a writer, a fantasy romance author, so I do that as well. However, that's now at this moment it's kind of like waiting to be picked up, because Polish with Elena is my main passion and business at the moment.
But do you find that there's a huge interest in learning Polish language?
I'm actually surprised, because there is. I mean, of course, it's not the English language. Like, everyone wants to learn the English language. So when I first started, I wasn't sure how successful it will be, but it has grown since September, and I have more and more people contacting me. I teach people. I have like one-on-one classes online. There are a lot of Americans of Polish origins that want to learn Polish. They want to go back to their roots. There are a lot of expats living in Poland, or the people who are married to a Polish person wanting to learn Polish. So yes, actually, all over the world there are people who are learning Polish. And let me surprise you, I even had a class with a Chinese student who has nothing to do with Poland. Okay, he doesn't live in Poland. He doesn't have a Polish partner. He just likes Polish language, and he lives in the middle of China, and he's learning Polish, and he's an intermediate level. And I was impressed, because the entire class was in Polish, and he had absolutely no problems with communicating in Polish, which is such a difficult language, and he just learned by himself.
Wow. So, do you think he had any interest of going to Poland and maybe dating there, or was it just
I think yes, probably yes, probably. He didn't tell me that, but I could kind of read between lines that he's interested in that, maybe going to Poland and dating and making friends. He's just fascinated by Poland for some reason. I don't know what that reason could be.
It's interesting. It's interesting, right? Because I feel like Polish is such a tough language to learn, and unless you really need a reason for it, would you really start learning Polish language? But as you said, like people have a fascination with other cultures, and that's actually very interesting as a topic because sometimes someone can live in Nebraska in the middle of I would say for me in the middle of nowhere. But let's say you live in a small city in the U.S. and you're so fascinated by, let's say, Polish culture, and that's you want to know more about um, the language and the people. And I feel like a lot of times we don't really relate so well to the culture that we're from, and we just kind of crave that opposite culture. As a Polish woman, do you get a lot of people coming up and saying, "Oh, Polish women are like this and this. This is my stereotype of Polish people."
Yes, of course, yes. They usually say that Polish women are beautiful, which I guess it's true. As Slavic women, they have the reputation of being beautiful, and I think there is a lot of truth to that. Not trying to be humble at all, but I think that's a stereotype that it's quite true. But sometimes it's fetishized, you know. Like I remember, I had a situation. A friend told me, "Oh, my buddy really wants to meet you," and I'm like, "He wants to meet me, but why? He doesn't know anything about me." "Yeah, but he knows you're Polish." And I was like, "That's that. I could be a terrible person. I could not be even attractive because I guess that was something that was on the back of his mind. But he just knew I was Polish, and that was it. Like he really wants to meet me.
And
Strange.
did you end up meeting with him in the end?
No, I thought it was weird. No.
Yeah, that's such an interesting thing because I would say you're very Polish in my opinion. I mean, you have the blonde hair. You're the very stereotypical idea of like a pretty Polish girl. But as someone who is Russian, born and raised in Russia, I definitely don't look Russian. I don't sound Russian. I don't come off as Russian, like the stereotypical Russian that men have in mind. And the one thing I absolutely hate is when I'll go on a date with someone or I'll meet someone and they'll say like, "Oh, you're Russian." Like say something in Russian, or "I thought you would be like this," or "I thought you would be like that." And I just steer away from those kind of guys only because first of all, I'm not that stereotypical looking girl. But also you don't want someone to be interested in you because of some fantasy that they have about a certain culture.
Mhm.
Like and certain cultures get this a lot. I would say like Latinas, um, Eastern European girls, obviously, a lot of Asian girls, they get fetishized quite a lot. So as a Polish woman, you get fetishized a lot, I would assume.
I think so. Yes, yes, definitely. There is that stereotype, and sometimes it's nice, right? It's lovely because I do agree that Polish women are beautiful, and they're not only beautiful, they're lovely. They're family oriented. They are decent women. They're lovely people. But yeah, sometimes it's just taken to another level where, come on, I'm a human being. I'm not an object. And there's another thing which is, and I think it's not about only about women, it's about Polish people, is the drinking thing. I don't drink alcohol at all. And having those expectations and almost like a disappointment. "Oh, you don't drink? Oh, you're not really Polish, so come on." Not
But
every Polish person drinks.
But actually, let's break it down for any foreigners that are listening to this. Would you say that the stereotype about drinking, first of all, is it more focused like on the men drinking more? Because I would say in Russia, it's the men that drink more. And obviously, like in villages, that's something that they do more than in bigger cities. And so
Mhm.
that's where the stereotype comes in. Obviously, there's women that drink heavily, but I wouldn't say like an average Russian woman would drink that much. It's mostly like cocktails or wine or something classy. How is it in Poland?
I think Polish women do drink, and yeah, it's not a classy drink. I mean, depends on a person's taste, but I wouldn't say that it's that way. Like when I lived in Latin America, women there wouldn't drink much, and if they did, they drank classy drinks, right? In Poland, no, you drink beer, you drink vodka, you drink whatever men drink. Like equality in that context, equality, full equality, and Polish women usually have very good alcohol resistance. Like they can drink a lot. Um, I'm not one of those women. I'm like dizzy after a glass of wine, so that's why I don't drink. But in general, I would say that Polish women they can drink. They can drink.
I can so relate to you. I get a headache after like half a bottle of wine, and it's getting worse as the older that I get.
Absolutely.
I just hate it. I've gotten to the point where I'm like, maybe I should lay off alcohol in general. Like it doesn't make me feel good.
Yeah.
But what would you say? So for any foreign men that come to Poland, something that they should know about the culture.
Be a gentleman. Be a gentleman. The times we're living are not easy for men to navigate because it's so confusing, right? With women wanting this and that. We want to be independent and we're feminists, but at the same time we want, men to pay on the first date, whatever. It's very confusing. In Poland, stick to the gentleman part. It's still quite a conservative country, traditional. Women are fully independent. Polish women, they all work, right? There's no, even if they have a family, which every Polish woman wants to have a family, they still work. I have a friend who has, my best friend in Poland, she has 4 kids, and now she's in her fifth pregnancy with twins, and she works, like she never stopped working, but she was on a maternity leave and then straight back to work. So like Polish women are very hardworking, independent, they always want to be financially independent. However, in dating, they want a man to take the lead, they want a man to be the protector, they want a man to earn more. On a first date, it's really nice when a man offers to pay, and many women will say, no, 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 come on, no, let's split it. But deep down, it's nice if at least he offers. So that's something that we'd expect, like opening doors, all those things. For us, it's not offensive. It's lovely. We expect that. Whenever I go back to Poland, when I take a train with my heavy bag, and like men throw themselves, to help me to put the bag, in the train on top of the shelf, right? And I always think it's so nice. Like, yeah, I know I can do that. I go to the gym and I exercise. I can do that. But it's nice when someone does it for you. It's lovely. I enjoy it, and I think most of women enjoy it. And if Polish women who go abroad and men don't behave that way, like the first impression is that it's a little bit offensive if a man doesn't try to help you. If you're like going, I don't know, you want groceries and you're carrying a bag and he's not offering to help you, it's like, what's wrong with that guy? Like, why is he not trying to help me? So yes, definitely be a gentleman in every meaning of that word, and that will get you some points.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because every time I make a video about like whether it be like in general Slavic women, um, there's this like misconception that Slavic women are just gold diggers and oh, they're just trying to abuse a man, they're trying to use a man. Not so much about Poland. I really haven't heard this much about Poland, but I would say, there's such a big difference between a gold digger, which I'm sure that Poland has some gold diggers, like a lot of countries, and just a woman who wants to be taken care of in a way, like it's a strong shoulder, right? It's just it makes a man kind of manly. What's the difference between someone who's trying to use you for money and someone who genuinely wants a gentleman?
It's so difficult for me to answer that question because I don't know any women like that. I hear that sometimes men say, "Oh, women only want rich guys. They want to use them for money." But I just don't have friends like that. I don't know how a woman like that behaves. Even nowadays, I live in Portugal. I don't live in Poland, but all my friends here, they're of different nationalities. There are some Latinas, but they're not. They don't do that. So it's so difficult for me to even imagine that. When I hear men speak about those things, I always try to think, like, who is that woman? Like, I don't behave like that. I don't know women who behave like that. So it's so strange. That concept is really, really foreign to me. So I would just say, I don't know. Just I think you can see that if she's a decent woman from the start, even if she feels. I think she feels grateful, right? She doesn't take things for granted. Um, she's independent, like she has a job, so I think that's the first thing. She's not just waiting for a prince charming to come and rescue her.
Okay. And so besides the fact that the men should be a gentleman, is there anything else that they can kind of keep in mind?
Be a handyman.
In true Polish fashion.
I mean, okay, you don't have to be a handyman. If you are an intellectual who is, a businessman and he knows how to work with his mind, that's super impressive, right? But there is this little part in every Polish woman who is so impressed by a man who knows how to deal with stuff. If something breaks at home, he just, he just pulls his sleeve up and he does it. He fixes it. It's like, ooh. Amazing, you know. I remember I had a situation with a man that I was dating here. He wasn't Polish. We were supposed to have brunch, and I was in a rush, and I locked myself out of my apartment, and he was already downstairs waiting. And I was like, "Oh my God, can you help me? I locked myself out." And he's like, "Oh, you probably have to call a locksmith." And I'm like, "What? A locksmith? Are you crazy? Who calls a locksmith? We have to find a a hardware store, and we have to open my door." And that's what we did. We got like a bunch of screwdrivers of different sizes, and we went back to mine, and we just opened it. We just kind of played with it a little bit, manipulated it, and we managed to open it. And I had to be the one to kind of take lead in that. And it was a fun, lovely, and bonding experience. But down there, I was like, "Ugh, I wish you just opened that. Like, why did I have to be the one to suggest to do something like that? Like, you shouldn't be the one to like, let me rescue you. I will handle that situation."
Are Polish guys like that? I mean, we have put that in the video actually, so I don't even know why I'm asking you, but
They're totally like that. They are totally like that. Yes, they will. Yes, I mean, it's a matter of honor. It's a matter of honor. Like, they have to be able to fix stuff, even if they don't know how, and even if it breaks afterwards. But they will fix everything. They'll fix it.
interesting. So what other culture shocks have you had? Because you have lived, let's list off all the places that you've lived in actually.
Okay. Wow. Okay. From the beginning. So the first country I lived in after Poland was Turkey. After that, Costa Rica, Colombia, Costa Rica, Colombia, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Thailand, Italy, Brazil, and Portugal.
So tell me, like, what was the culture that you found was the closest to like the Polish mentality out of all of these?
So I think with the cultures that you mentioned, there are some areas of similarities where men usually there are like still quite defined gender roles, and men are masculine and manly, and they want to take care of you, and they want to I don't know, they want to be the ones to take the lead and take the initiative, and at the same time they look very different. They look very different than the Polish men, right? Which, not to offend Polish men, they're lovely, they're handsome, but they're blonde, they have light eyes, light skin, and it's just something that is so common for us. So when you see a man who looks completely different, has a darker shade of skin and dark eyes, which I know for a fact that people in, for example, in South America or Asia, they complain about their eyes and they want to wear contact lenses. But for me, always it used to be the most beautiful eye color because they're so deep, dark eyes, right? Completely brown, almost black. It was so beautiful. Black hair, right? Not like a bald guy, but actual hair. That's nice.
Are
So
most Polish guys bald? Is that what it is?
I think nowadays not. I think that like Polish men, they evolved in that area, right? So when I still lived in Poland, I would say that probably yes, that was the Polish look, stereotypical Polish look of a Polish guy who is big, muscular, no neck as they call it, and bald. But nowadays, when I go to Poland, I'm like, oh, okay, those guys look different. They don't look the way I remember from when I lived there. So yeah, they do take care of themselves now. They're much better groomed.
Okay, so it's the exoticness, right? Because that's really funny. When I was in South America, I just remember I had a blonde friend, and the amount of attention that she got was amazing. Like, it was incredible, because she was just so exotic. And I think it works exactly the same way, right? For you, like coming from Poland, these guys are just so exotic, right? But what is it about what culture would you say? Would you say like South American culture? Did that feel like kind of in line with the Polish culture? As someone who like looks at culture, I'm always interested in how certain cultures they just clash. Obviously, people are people; they can be very international, like you are, or like many other people that I know. But a lot of times the values are so different, as you said, like the gender roles. One can be very family oriented culture, and the other can be very individualistic, and but the gender roles is like a huge one, or even the way they express love, because I find that with Slavic women, they may seem cold to the outsiders, but there's like a lot of fire there, right? They want to feel special. They want to feel like a woman. They want to feel beautiful. And they want someone to make them feel that way, right?
Mhm.
So I think that's like one of the biggest things that I've heard, like, oh, but they're so cold. But on the inside, I haven't found that to be true at all.
No, not at all. Not at all. I don't think Slavic women are cold. I think they're very warm, very hot, actually. There's a lot of passion there, but it's just a little bit different, right? It's not so, like out there, so obvious. Like with Latinas, they're all fire, right? You can see that. And with us, it's like, a friend, a Brazilian friend, she called me a tender flame. And I thought it was so beautiful. It was so poetic. I loved it. And I thought, yes, that's true. It's a tender flame. There is fire, but it's not fire that is so obvious. It's tender. And then, you have to see what happens when you get to the next stage, how
Yeah.
this fire can grow in a positive or negative way. Or negative way. Yeah. But going back to your question, um, so yes, so those in those areas of similarities, of course, we match, right? And also the differences make it even more attractive, more magnetic. Also the fact that in some cultures, like men in South America, for example, they are very open and they are very seductive and they dance, which Polish men don't dance. They stand there with their beer and watch you dance. And that was super attractive for me. So I love that, and I think you can see very often Polish women with Latinos or Italian men or Spanish men. So there is this I think mutual magnetic drive, magnetic attraction. But there are also a lot of differences that sometimes in the long run, don't make the relationship work out because. At the end of the day, Polish women are quite family oriented. They expect a man to be very devoted and faithful and not have eyes for other women. And unfortunately, I mean, I don't want to offend anyone again, but I think people who live in South America, they can admit that, yeah, people kind of are flirtatious and they don't always stick to one partner. So that's something that definitely is not something that a Polish woman would ever tolerate.
Would you say Polish men are quite faithful?
You know that once I read some kind of research that Polish men were in that research in that specific survey. It said that Polish men were the most faithful in Europe, the most faithful, or maybe even in the world. I don't know. And I was like, oh my goodness. And I think it might be true. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure, as in every country, there are men who cheat, but it's not something that, you get a pat on your back for it. Like in some places that I lived in, it's like, oh, yeah, you have a woman, but you managed to trick her and you managed to get that other hot girl. No, in Poland, like, your buddies are not like that. Your buddies won't tell you, awesome. No, it's going to be embarrassing. If you have a lover, you better hide it because it's not a reason to be. And if it's nothing to be proud of, and no one will pat your back. Maybe one friend, but like two other friends will just judge you for that. So it's not nice. And I think for that reason, it's also a very Catholic country, and like actually Catholic and stick into that. Even though I'm not a religious person, but there is some ethical code in there that people live up to. Um, and as I saw in your profile, actually, the statistics that you published about the divorce rates in Poland, I believe it was 33%, which I actually thought that was quite high. But then comparing to some other places,
When it comes to Poland, it's interesting because I think we showed this in the video that the idea of being in a relationship, right, is so important. So in North America, I can tell you for a fact, like living in Canada, the thing that bothers most people is
Mhm.
that there's such a thing of like dating around. You're
Yeah.
dating around and you're looking for the next best thing. And it's only when you're really, really certain that you sit down and you have a conversation about where is this going? Are we together? Whatnot. And until then, you're basically free to date whoever you want. But, knowing what I know about Poland because of those numerous videos that I've made and we made together, the idea that you're in a relationship, that's pretty much implied, right? Like almost right away.
Absolutely, absolutely. That was one of my biggest culture shocks when I left Poland. I was just shocked. It's that we don't have situationships in Poland, you know. I mean, of course, I'm not 20 years old. Maybe kids date differently, but back in my days, we did not do that stuff. Okay, we did not do any kind of situationships. Like, what is that? Who would allow that to happen? You date a person, you go on a few dates, you hold hands, you kiss, you're in a relationship.
You're screwed. You're
You're
done.
screwed. You're not dating anyone else. No, you're in a relationship. There's no conversation about it. You are in a relationship. So just to give you an example, when I lived in Costa Rica, I met a guy the first day I arrived to Costa Rica. And within 6 months, like we were dating, and I met his family. We would go on trips together, we would hold hands, obviously we were intimate, we would do things, go, travel, go to the beach, whatever. And one day we went to the beach, beautiful place. We were sitting on the beach, watching the stars, and he's like, "Look, I have a very important question." All nervous. I'm like, "Oh my god, what kind of question is that?" And he's like, "Will you be my girlfriend?" And I just wanted to laugh. I'm like, "You're joking, right?" And he's like, "No, will you be my girlfriend?" I thought he was joking because that's something, a 12-year-old in Poland would ask a girl from his class, but not an adult. Like, you're just entering a relationship by being with the other person. You don't have to talk about it. So we don't have that define the relationship talk, nothing like that, because there's no situationships. You only date to be in a relationship. So it's obvious that you organically enter into one.
I just remember there was this like TV show. It was Polish, and it was this about, oh my god, it was this Polish woman. She goes to Italy, and she she falls for this mafia man. Do you remember this? Have you watched it?
365 days. It's a movie. It's not a TV show. It's a
Oh,
movie.
it's you're right.
Three
It's a movie.
movies on Netflix.
Is this a Polish fantasy?
Oh my god, I don't even know what to say about this movie. So look, the movie. It's not a good story. Okay, it's not a good story. It's
The
not a
acting,
very
the
realistic.
acting, the acting was.
Yeah, the actress, she got the golden raspberry, right? I think that's what they call, the opposite of Oscars for the worst actress. So she got that. And but the man there, I mean, they're gorgeous. They're gorgeous. They're absolutely stunning, beautiful Italian men. And that's the fantasy, that's the fantasy, to be kidnapped by this beautiful, amazing, wonderful mafioso guy, dangerous, strong, handsome, who is obsessed with you. Of course, in real life, that would never happen. That would be creepy AF. But that's the fantasy, It's an erotic movie. It's a fantasy. It's like a porn for women, right?
It's the 50 Shades of Grey, but Polish style.
But Polish style, yes, with a Polish woman and an Italian guy. So yeah, yeah. But actually, it's funny because you see those relationships. You see those relationships. It's so common for Polish women to date Italian men. The last man I dated was Italian.
And baby girl.
He didn't call me baby girl. No, he didn't.
What's killing me about the world nowadays, and I wonder if it is changing in Poland with the new generation, because this whole idea of just discarding each other, like, oh, I'm not so certain about this person, let me move on to the next person. Or, I can be dating you for months and months and it still means nothing. As you said, the situationship, what is that? That shouldn't even be a part of the vocabulary, in my opinion. It's just such a sad way to date nowadays that I think my interest as well, and with doing this podcast, like, I'm actually curious to find out, is this like affecting the whole world, this whole idea of just not committing, because I do see it in Canada 100%. And you probably see this in Portugal, which is
Absolutely.
it used to be such a conservative country, and it should still be to an extent, right? Like, to a large extent, Portugal is not even Spain. Like, I can see people in Spain kind of dating around, but Portugal to me just screams conservative. And even in Portugal, it's changing so much. So I think it's nice to hear that hopefully Poland still remains the same. And once I do put this up on YouTube, it would be interesting to hear from the Polish subscribers. Is it still like this? Like, let us know, guys. Or maybe for the younger generation, it is also changing into this crazy world of dating that no one wants to partake in any longer. It's just tiring, right? Like,
It
you want
is.
to you want to commit to someone and you want them to commit to you. You want to say, I found my person and that's it, like let's make it work.
Yeah. I honestly wouldn't know at the moment in Poland how it is with like younger generation, because my friends, my age, they're all married and they have 6 kids, so it's like they're not dating. So someone who is 20 years old, please let us know, how is it? Do you have situationships in Poland? I hope not.
We want to find that ideal place where this stuff doesn't exist. Like, hopefully,
Yes.
Poland is still that place. Actually, I will be traveling to Poland in the next month and a half. So I can tell you, I can actually tell you, I'm going to look into it. A lot of times people say that Polish people are not super friendly from the get go. Would you say that's true?
I think they seem cold. Yes, they seem cold. They seem quite distant. But once you enter, once you break the ice, you are a friend and you are loved. And you are loved and you are cherished and you are welcome at home and you are dined and wined and maybe not wine, but vodka. I don't think there's a verb for that. So, yes, I think it's that. And also, there's a difference between men and women, right? There is a quite big difference, I think, and my followers, they all confirm it, that Polish men in general are much more distant, serious. Maybe it takes a little bit more time to get into them, right? And Polish women are quite warm and open from the get go, so it's a little bit easier to approach a Polish woman, to become friends with a Polish woman. But it's just a matter of the approach. Once you get to know someone, you become a friend, and it's a completely different situation, completely different treatment. You are hugged and you're kissed in 3 cheeks and all that, cool Polish jazz. And you're invited to eat pierogi, so that's a good thing. So yes, don't get discouraged. Like, people don't smile, that's true. But once you get to know them, they will smile at you and they will treat you like family.
How do Polish people treat foreigners?
I guess it depends. Some people might be wary of them and might be a little bit prejudiced and having weird ideas just because they never met any. But many, many people are absolutely fascinated by foreigners and they love them because it's just so different, right? Poland was also closed for a long, long time. So nowadays it's lovely that there are so many international people coming to Poland, so many expats living in Poland. So I would say that they are welcoming. Oh, you know what? In Latin America, the age gap. In Poland, you usually date people your age. Yeah, maybe a little bit older, a little bit younger. But I was shocked when I went to Latin America. I was 24. And all those old men were hitting on me. Men who could be, my father. I was just like, what's wrong with you? What's going on? I was so confused. I was literally confused. I didn't know what was going on. Why they were hitting on me? And it took me some time to understand that it's just common there that, older men are with younger women, that sometimes the age gap can be 20 years and it's completely natural. Whilst in Poland is not. It's not very common. Of course you can have such relationships, but it's not usual. So that was something that was also an interesting culture shock for sure.
That's interesting. Where was this in Latin America? Which country?
Oh, that was Costa Rica, Colombia.
Would you say it's because I think that the issue with dating in Colombia, for one, that I know it more than Costa Rica, is that there's just such a variety of women in general, and there's
Mhm.
so many beautiful women, and it just seems like the men are like there's just an oversaturation of women in comparison to men, and I can imagine. I had a friend, she was a Colombian, and there was this intricate story. She realized her ex was cheat or her, well, now ex, he was cheating on her. And he was cheating on her with a 16-year-old girl. And she was like 35, 40. I don't even remember. It was crazy. It really was crazy. And like when she found out that he was cheating on her, instead of actually coming up and telling him, look, like I know that you're cheating on me, she devised the plan where she told the girl, she wrote the girl from his account to say to meet her, and she wrote the guy from just to say, "Hey, can you meet me?" to her husband, I think it was her husband, and ended up bringing the 3 of them together and having a conversation, but it was something crazy that she devised, and I honestly couldn't believe it because the girl was super, super young, and she said it was quite common because there's just so many, like, beautiful girls, and the men are very spoiled. And actually that happens going back to Russia. When I watch Russian movies, you often see, like, a 25-year-old woman or a 20-year-old woman, and she's dating a man, and he's, like, 20, 25 years her senior. Let's say he's, like, in his 50s, and she's desperately fighting to get him to divorce his wife. He's obviously always married, because Russians, Ukrainians, they marry young, and it's always the same theme of the younger woman dating an older man, and the older man is never attractive, and she's flawlessly beautiful, like she's always beautiful.
No, not at all. No, absolutely. That's really strange for Poland to have that. And I wonder if it's also because of the ratio of men to women in Russia. I've heard that it's very uneven. That it's maybe like one third men and two-thirds women. I don't know if I remember correctly, but it's like quite a big difference. Whilst in Poland, I think it's it's not such a big difference. I think there's slightly more women than men, but still it's 50-50 more or less.
Yeah, I think it's because of all the without getting into it, without because of all the wars and nowadays it's going to become even worse, unfortunately. But yeah, that's interesting that you've noticed that. I haven't really noticed that when I travel Latin America, but I'm going to take a look and see, like, maybe just older men there, they think they have a chance no matter how they look because they have a certain status.
Maybe they have proof to think that they have a chance because they get results. Where in
Yeah.
Poland, like that would be strange. That's really unusual. Really unusual. Yeah.
Have you realized something about yourself since leaving Poland and living abroad, or not at all?
Oh my God, that's such a difficult question to answer because I've been living abroad for some time already. So I make realizations all the time about myself. However, something specific, I don't know. Maybe recently, just the fact that I'm much more Polish than I felt, and much more conservative than I thought. Like I always used to be a rebel, against everything, the system, religion, and tradition, and everything is stupid, and marriage is stupid, and I don't want any like little girls in Poland, as in many places in the world, would dream about being a princess and getting married and stuff like that. We have this fairy tale about little Yashu who wanders off into the world and has different adventures and kills the dragon and gets the princess. Like I never wanted to be the princess. I wanted to be Yashu. I wanted to be this little boy who travels the world, and that's what I did. But nowadays, I just think like, oh no, actually, there is value in all those different things that I learned in Poland, and there is value in tradition and traditional kind of relationship, and yeah, and
Do, do you want to get married and have kids?
have kids. I don't know. I always thought I would have kids at some point, but I would always just kind of think, oh yeah, one day, one day, one day, one day. But for women, we cannot postpone that forever, right? And nowadays, I think, oof, I don't know if I would want that. I definitely would like to have a life partner, like a partner in crime, to enjoy life together, to grow together, to travel together, to talk for hours, to dance, to just have fun in life. I don't know if I would like to have kids. That would have to depend on so many things, on him, on me, on our plans, on our finances, because it's increasingly more expensive to have kids. So I'm not sure about that part. But love, of course, always.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, I think that's something that you often rebel and you say I don't want it, but the older you get, like, your priorities change a lot. What you
Mm.
thought was important is not as important. And actually, I think for me, it's like it's been dating different cultures where you start kind of understanding certain things. Like, I never thought I was very Russian either, but sometimes it comes out like in weird ways. I mean, I left when I was very young, so it's quite different. But the things that I'm drawn to, like, what is something that is important for you in a partner?
Turn offs. Oh wow, so many. I've dated many people for many wrong reasons. I've been attracted for very superficial reasons, and nowadays, so like, turnoffs. Definitely being a player, mind games. Oh my god, I watch a lot of dating coaches, okay, and I know a lot about the mind games and what men and women do. Oh, more men. And it's just, oh my god, it's horrible. It's horrible, and it's just such a turn off. If I just get a sniff of that someone is playing, hot and cold, or any of those stupid dating games that people do, it's just such a turn off. I don't want to have anything to do with a man like that. I just want a decent human being, a man who has his priorities in check, who is responsible, who is a good person, like honest, authentic, good person, which responsible, which like, if you asked me that question like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I would not mention those things. That would be boring. And now, no, like, I want a responsible, decent man. Like, that's sexy. That's sexy. If a man says, I will take care of that, oh my God, that's sexy. If a man says, like, I have responsibilities in life, woo, responsibilities, how nice. So yes, those are things that are sexy now, whereas a motorbike and a leather jacket was sexy back in the days.
Oh my god, I can so relate to that. Like some of the dating that I've done was like I there was nothing. There was like nothing in common that we shared at all, but it's just because he looked a certain way. It was like an idea that I had in my mind. And then you're like a year later, 2 years later, you're like, "Oh my god, this is like there's like we can't there's nothing to talk about. We don't have anything in common, you know?" You're right. Like priorities definitely change as we get older. And yeah, just having someone who's like, and especially nowadays in this kind of world where I think like men have I think I think men have stopped having like kind of that male initiation process where like in the past, in order to get a woman on a date, you need to find that woman in a bar or wherever, you need to approach her, you need to get her phone number, you need to call her. She might say yes, she might say no, right? Maybe she lives with her parents, so you have to call her to the phone and then asking her out on a date. And I think in a way that was kind of that was so difficult, and that was like such an investment from the get-go. And they say once you put in that kind of investment, then you really prioritize this person. And nowadays it's just that men don't have to do that anymore. They don't have to fear rejection. They don't have to go through the same process. There's nothing really there. It's just left, right, yes, no. You don't even have to bother with conversation. Certain apps, the woman has to message the man, and then they'll not respond, so just having someone who's like, you know who wants that commitment and a grown up. Although how women, how we are, though we find someone who is perfectly ready for a serious relationship and we're like, he's nice but I just don't feel it, it's we say we want this, but when it happens we're like, something is off, he's too ready for a relationship.
Yes, too much. It's too much. No, but I think I got to the point where I'm like, I want someone ready. Like, I'm actually ready for someone who is ready. Because yeah, I'm just sick and tired of that. And I think that the dating apps definitely contributed to the downfall of dating. Definitely, it's just horrible, horrible. Because people are spoiled. People are spoiled. They can just swipe and that's that. They don't have to put any effort into dating, and that's sad. That's sad. The courtship is dead. Sadly,
You
it's
mentioned that your dating experience in Portugal isn't so interesting to share, right?
because there's not much. I thought so. I live here, but the last man I dated was Italian. Before him, I dated for some time an Angolan man. I don't really date Portuguese men. It's their dating scene is so confusing to me. I just haven't cracked it. I just don't understand it. I don't know. It's different. They have their code, Portuguese men and Portuguese women, and they know how to play the game, and I just don't know how to play that game. Yes. So the one thing, I don't know if you noticed that because you lived in Portugal, right? Like that they don't really approach as much. They kind of look at you, but they don't do much.
Well, they do mention that it's because like the women are very difficult to approach, so they don't know what to do. They're very passive, I would say.
Mm,
Um, And I don't really know, honestly, my experience has been also very weird. Just my online dating experience where they would just I don't know. It was also very confusing. I didn't get very far with it either. I did once have a boyfriend who was Portuguese, but he was mixed with Brazilian, and he was a really great guy. He's married now. I think he already has a child. Very like conservative, nice Portuguese boy. Um, so that was a good experience. But when I lived in Portugal, yeah, no, that yeah, it was confusing. And you're not the only one to mention that. I have a lot of friends that mention like, oh, it's so difficult um to date there. But I think it's interesting, like because like people say this so much about all the cities that they live in nowadays, and I just wonder maybe it's just difficult in general. Is this like a city thing, a country thing? Is it just a general thing with the world, like with all these online dating apps, and just the change in mindset, and especially after COVID, it's just gone downhill. So yeah,
No, I think we're like in a period of transition, and we're just completely lost because of all the like technological revolution. Everything happens so fast. We have everything is so easily accessible, and and women are so independent, and all of it is just so confusing for everyone. And another thing that I actually had a conversation about that with my friends last Sunday. We went and had like a lovely picnic in park, and of course complained about dating. and and we were just and we all love Bridgerton, right? And we were talking about Bridgerton, that in Bridgerton, you had those rules, very strict societal rules, and of course, we don't want those kind of rules, but at least people knew what to do. There was a mating season, there was a season where they would, be introduced into the society, and they would look for husband and wife. And it was just kind of, you had like a specific set of instructions, what to do, what not to do. And nowadays, we're so free, there are no rules, and everyone is completely lost. Everyone is just running around like headless chickens, and they don't know what to do with themselves and in dating.
I agree. I wish there was just like you would be given a map once a certain age, and like, here, go here, this is where he's gonna be. Or like there was like a dating app where they find you this person, you don't have to look, because it's a lot of work looking around and looking. And yeah, I think, yeah, like as you said, it's just people don't know what they want. People are less willing to make sacrifices. Like even the jobs that we have now, look at us. I mean, I make YouTube videos, you teach Polish online. If we lived years ago, we wouldn't be able to do that right away. Like nowadays, the jobs that we do because they make us happy and they bring satisfaction. That wasn't one of the reasons our parents did their jobs. They just did their jobs because they had to make money. And nowadays, everything is kind of like that, where it's like, no, but I have to feel happy with this. I have to be, this has to fulfill me in every single way, you know? So we're looking for a lot in our partner as well. I don't know how we got from talking about Poland and cultures to just completely dating. But it was interesting. I think a lot of people are going to be able to relate to this conversation. And
Just two girls talking
just
about dating, talking about boys, braiding our hair. Maybe we should braid our hair as well.
pillow fights.
Yes.
Where's my pillow? If you want to learn Polish, if your tongue can physically do the sounds in in one go, and you want to take on a cool challenge, which I think learning Polish is definitely a challenge, and I think it's interesting if you're traveling to Poland and you could actually speak a little bit of the language, you're going to impress
Absolutely.
people.
People would be so flattered. People would just open their arms before you. You would say one word, and they would be like, oh. They would be delighted.
So, guys, if you want to, come to Poland armed and prepared, go check out Elena's Instagram page. And she does offer Polish classes on there. And you can also get some free cards just to try it out and see if you like Polish language, and if if you can handle it. But yeah, Elena, thank you so much for chatting to me. And I think we went further than I thought we would, but it was interesting just to kind of not only talk about the culture side of it, but also just to talk to you as like a female, and what you're going through with dating, and like kind of share that as well, because I think that's like just a very like human side of it.
Yes, I loved it. I love talking to you, the dating expert, the number one dating expert online. So that was fantastic, and I feel so honored that I am the first guest on your new and amazing adventure. So yes, I wish you
Yeah.
all the best with that, and I will definitely share your content with my followers because I think it's amazing.
Okay, thank you so much for the kind words. And guys, I'm gonna link to everything below so you can go check it out all the details that we have mentioned in this episode. So yeah, I will see you next week with a new video. And bye bye, Elena.
Bye.